Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining in again today. Thank you for coming to my talk show. We're going to call it a talk show. Thank you for coming to my talk show. Thank you for tuning in. I have some really fun things I want to talk about today. Before I do, though, I want to just give like a quick energy update. And then the topic for today, I had an amazing question submitted to the form that I posted last week. It's still open. You can still submit your questions whenever you want. But I had an amazing question about medication and our psychic abilities. And I really want to dive into that. And I want to talk about plant medicine and medicine of the plant. I want to talk about some of my favorite plant medicines, what I use them for, how I use them, my favorite medicines of the plant, what the hell I mean by the difference between them, the whole shebang. So let's get into it. So first, I really want to talk about the energy because the energy has been driving us bonkers. And by us, I mean collectively everyone. If you're not bonkers, I need to talk to you. I have so many questions if you are not bonkers at this point. But I'm just going to assume we're all at least like a little bit there. Okay, we're all a little bit there. So I want to talk about what the hell that is doing. Like, why are we being tested to this extent? And really, I don't necessarily think it's a test. I think it feels like a test because we're all being driven batty. But I don't really think it's a test. Instead, I think it's more things coming out that need to come out, things being dealt with that need to be dealt with. Now, yes, I have said this before. I've talked about it before. We've been in that cycle before of releasing and of dealing with things. And we've been there. We've done that. Why are we doing it again? Okay, so my personal, what's going on? To me, it felt like there was a shifting. However, I don't like the word shifting. And I had a conversation with Spirit about it when they called it a shifting. Because when you told me that we were shifting, Spirit told me that we were shifting, I was not prepared. I was not prepared for the level that we were doing. And I said, Spirit, I don't think shifting is the right word for it. And so I did my little flippy through of words that I came up with, of words that were popping in my head. And I was doing the pushback method to check to see kind of what fit best. And the word that fit best was implosion. Okay, so I think we went through an implosion of sorts, a shifting, a merging implosion of sorts, where it wasn't just a releasing so we could move. It was us moving. It was the earth moving. It was the collective consciousness moving. It was like doing the damn thing, right? Now at this point, I'm like freaking out a little bit because imploding. And Spirit was like, calm down, Rebecca. You're so dramatic. And I was like, yes, I know, but please, the fuck, right? And they were like, okay. Take this little vision in my brain, right? This is what they gave me. It was basically Earth, round, right? And then we have another Earth. And another way of explaining this that's not merging, shifting, or imploding that I've started calling it is a drop, because we are basically having another Earth drop in, okay? And that doesn't match with the whole like raising vibration. That doesn't match with that imagery. I understand. But for the sake of not losing my marbles any more than they already are, we're going to call it a drop, imploding drop. Everything's fine. We're fine. We're going to make it through it. Now, the way I see this drop, this imploding drop, being a little bit different than some of the releasing the things that were hiding before cycles that we were going through, is before we didn't have the kind of forward movement that this drop is providing for us. What do I mean by that? I feel like a lot of us, if not the grand majority of us, have been on this sort of pause in one way or another. Some aspect of our life, be it human, spirit, something, has kind of been paused. There hasn't been this forward movement like we were hoping for, just as a whole. And that tends to happen pretty often in winter, so it's not a super big deal. But it's dramatic this time, of course, because of all the things that we have going on. And why wouldn't it be dramatic? Okay, just anyway. So we have this movement now that we didn't have before. And so that is making things that are coming up be fast. The movement of it is everything is happening all at once. You're finding out everything all at once. Things are coming to light all at once. Things are coming up that you need to deal with all at once. And it's not kind of allowing that processing time that I think we're really, really used to. And that is feeling very overwhelming. Just one aspect of it would feel very overwhelming. And I really feel like many of us are being hit with many different aspects of things coming up and finding out everything at once, and it just feeling very, very overwhelming right now. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. I promise you, you are not alone, because it is hard out there right now. Now, with all of that being said, the best advice that I have is, it's annoying. It's the same advice I always give you, but it's don't fight it. And that is, so freaking hard because we have never been taught what not fighting it looks like. We have never been shown what it is to release things and let things go when their natural time goes. We are taught, especially in the United States, to fight, to grind, to never give up, to go, to never give in, right? We're taught to fight every single step that's going on. And absolutely, that is a characteristic that I think everybody should have. Everybody should be able to pull that fight out of them for the things that matter to them. But I don't think we need to fight every single thing that is coming up. Now, unfortunately for all of us, I can't just tell you how to handle this stuff. I can't just tell you how to let it flow. However, I do have two kind of contradictive mindsets that have been very, very helpful, especially for me right now in all of this craziness that are I don't understand how they work together. But the first one is things are happening around me. Everything is happening around me. I'm in the middle and things are just swirling. And they're not happening to me. That's very important. They're happening around me. And it's up to me what I want to pull out, what I want to engage with, what I want to fix, what I want to work with, all of these things. It's up to me to pull out and grab what I want, right? But these things are happening around me. They're not happening to me. But on the flip side of that, I also really appreciate the mindset that I have something to learn from every single situation. Now, sometimes the situation is something that I should have known better about. Sometimes the situation is a brand new lesson that I'm going to need in the future. Sometimes the situation is just prevention, right? So there's so many things that we can learn, that we can grow, we can use from every swirling thing around us. And when we pull it out and we choose to engage with it, we think about what that thing, whatever we've pulled out, has to offer us and how we can learn from it, grow from it, etc. And the reason that I like these two the most is because if something is really, really bothering you and you can't get it out of your head from the swirling, pull it in and think about where it's coming from you. Find where inside of you, inside of your body, inside of your brain, inside of your inner child, inside of your past lives, find inside of you what that one thing is pulling on and focus on that over here. Focus on what is this one thing, even if it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it has to do with other families. Sometimes it has to do with careers, right? Even if it has nothing to do with you, if it's really bothering you, pull it aside and sit with it and think, even though, maybe this thing has nothing to do with me, what am I learning from it? What am I growing from it? What am I experiencing from it? That sort of thing. And you're probably thinking, Rebecca, that makes perfect sense. What do you mean it doesn't make sense? Here's the thing. When you are in one mindset or the other, it is really, really hard to switch because first and foremost, you have to focus to get in that mindset. You have to make a choice to get into that mindset. And then you typically have to continue to make the choice to stay there. And you have to do this repeatedly until it just becomes the natural process, until your brain, this is real life, until your brain makes those new neural connections, new neural pathways. Bear with me, guys. You're gonna see in a second why my mouth correctly, okay? So you have to get in the routine of it until your brain literally rewires itself. This is neuroscience, this is real life. Until your brain literally rewires itself to make those pathways and those connections on their own, just as a natural habit, right? So we are really in this, things are happening around me, not to me. Things are happening around me, not to me. And you're kind of focusing on that and really consciously putting effort to maintaining that neutral kind of eye of the storm space, right? That takes energy, that takes consciousness, that takes effort. And when you have put so much consciousness and effort into one aspect that you're working on, it is really hard to pull back and switch to the literal opposite of that, to where everything that is happening is about me. What am I learning from it? What am I learning from every aspect of it, from every angle of it, from every facet of it? Those are two very, very different things. And when you are in each of them, when you are focusing consciously on each of them, they can be really, really hard to pull back from and switch to the opposite. Of course, that's tricky. Of course, it's going to take practice. Of course, nobody is expected to get it perfect or to do it in one day. You have to do it over and over again. Give your brain a fighting chance. Don't quit after just a little bit, okay? Give yourself and your brain a fighting chance. Make those connections, make those pathways, and just take it slow. So we are in the imploding drop. Everything is fine. The world is... Let's move on. I'm just kidding, guys. The world is in chaos, absolutely. But I do still hold the most beautiful hope and energy and vision for the future. I do think that things are going to be better than we could have ever expected, that we are going to have abilities and energies and connections and community in a way that I didn't think was possible in my lifetime. The community part alone is something that I can almost taste it. We are so close. I It's one of my most favorite parts. It's going to be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in the entire world. Fingers crossed. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, let's talk about medication and spirituality. So it's been about 9 years since I graduated college, but I did go to college for psychology. I kind of split between criminal psychology and psychology of the child and human development. Now, I have a lot to say about criminal psychology. It's still the school to prison pipeline, I will never get over, okay? I will never be okay with any of that. However, I also really just love psychology as a whole, why we think the way we do, what we do, nature versus nurture, the whole nine, right? Like I love all of it. And so I have spent a really long time over the decade of my spiritual journey, just kind of getting with spirit, being like, please tell me everything. I want to absorb as much as possible. And I have a lot of theories about why, like the connection between mental health and spirituality, kind of where mental health fits into like different vibrations, and how I think that some mental illnesses are simply somebody operating on a vibration that is not the common vibration of Earth. So, for example, if you have a mental diagnosis that involves time in any way, maybe you don't understand time properly, different vibrations, different realms, time is different, right? So, it's super possible that some of the issues that we're seeing are simply people operating on different vibrations, okay? Now, I will talk about all that, but also I have some firsthand experience, okay, with medication and spirituality and psychic abilities. I have some firsthand. Okay, so I have some experience with that. So thankfully, I don't have to take all of them every day. A lot of them are duplicates, but I do have such a high dosage of medications prescribed to me that I have to order them and have them shipped to my house in 90-day supplies. This isn't even all of them. I quite literally, there's some that don't even auto ship, and I have to go in and order them because they're such controlled substances, because the chronic pain is extremely severe. And so I want to talk about that. I want to share my experience with that. I want to share the journey that I've been through in both my spirituality journey and in my like physical health journey, because if I'm taking all of these medications, they're going to overlap in a way, because my opinion, any medication that we take, any plant medicine that we take, any medicine of the plant that we take, it is helping to get us to the vibration that we need. It's helping to get us to the place that we hopefully want to be in existing on this earth. Because let's just go with my theory for a second. Let's say we are operating on a different vibration. Let's say all of my pain and all of this is because I'm operating on a different vibration, and my medication simply helps pull my vibration down to a more earth setting. Now, that is one theory. I don't actually have any straight answers about any of it, but I will share with you my theories as we go. So my chronic pain started when I was 18 from an injury that I got in basic training, and that was in 2011. So I have been doing this since 2011 with the chronic pain. It has progressively been getting worse, as I haven't been able to get actual help from doctors until the past couple of years, honestly. It was only within the past few years that I've been getting actual diagnosis and medication that has actually been helping. Before that, I was typically going to a doctor and being like, please help me. And they would be like, okay, I'll run these tests. All the tests would come back normal. And they'd be like, I don't know, can't help you. You can try this. And they would send me to, a $500 specialist appointment. And that specialist would be like, I don't know, I can't help you. And I would have to go search for something else. So American medical system, right? Whatever. Now, there has been points in this journey where I had medication that was kind of helping, but not really. And I was really, really wanting to test out the theory of, does medication block my psychic abilities? Does medication cause a hindrance in them? Does medication kind of put a cap over them? And so the medication I was on wasn't really helping to the extent that I was hoping it was helping anyway. I felt like it wasn't really worth it for me to continue to take it. And at the same time, I said, well, if it's not worth it, let's test this out. So I really spent some time with that process. I spent some time focusing on that process, consciously observing that process, figuring out all of the things that I saw on the internet, right? Because we all have heard like, oh, medication blocks this, you have to get off this, you can't do that. We've all heard it. I went through the entire first part of my spiritual journey hearing nothing but that. And yet I have a psychology background. I have mental health backgrounds in like my personal life and my family and my friends and things like that. And I know the impact, the positive impact that medications can have. And it felt very counterintuitive to me to say you can't be on medication and you can't just have a natural intuition connection. It felt it wasn't making sense. And so the fuck around and find out in me kicked in. And I spent, I don't remember exactly how long, but I know for sure it was at least a year. And I want to say it was like 2 or 3 years, but time is weird. So I spent at least a year, probably more, really focusing on how my psychic abilities are changing, if they're changing, if the connection is growing, if I felt like medication was causing problems there and now they're like opening back up. Like I really spent some time digging into and just experiencing and searching and feeling into, is the medication going to fuck me up? Can I do what I want to do spiritually? Can I be the person I want to be? Can I make the impact I want to be and be on medication? And surprise, surprise, the answer was yes. Okay. Absolutely yes. I want to just stop and take like a little pause for 1 second. If you are thinking like, hey, I want to fuck around and find out too. I want to stop my medication. I want to explore it on my own. Please do not stop your medication cold turkey. That is very, very dangerous. That is, look at my eyes. It's so dangerous. Please don't do it. Okay. Stopping medication cold turkey, especially medication that's prescribed for mental health, can actually have opposite effects. So if you're taking a depression medication and you stop it cold turkey, you can have suicidal indications very, very quickly from that. Please, please, please talk to your doctor, come off the medication slowly, really control it. Do not cold turkey stop. Okay. It is very dangerous, guys. Please be so kind to yourself. Please be so kind to yourself and give yourself a fighting chance. Okay. And I am by no means advocating for people to stop their medication to just go play around and find out. No, please take your pills. Please take your pills. I take all of my pills because I would be crying in a corner if I didn't. Please take your medication. I'm not advocating for anybody to stop. I'm just saying if it comes up, don't do a cold turkey because that's so, so dangerous. Okay, so let me tell you kind of what happened with medication as a whole that really convinced me, oh my gosh, I can absolutely take medication and reach my full spirit potential. So let's start off where I decided I was going to stop my medication and see what happens, right? So I'm going through and I'm doing all the spiritual things and I'm focusing really just on like growing and exploring and trying to see the extent of my abilities. And I'm doing this again, this is the span of years. Okay. So I'm doing this and I'm slowly going to my primary care doctor again. I'm like, please, I need something. And I just have like a muscle relaxer and maybe like an emergency, like high strength ibuprofen, right? Like a naproxen. I'm not getting very much help at this point. And so the pain is building. The pain is compounding because I'm having no relief. I am every day adding more and more pain and not resetting at night even. So the pain is compounding and I'm getting to the point where it is very, very distracting. And there was a really, really difficult point where like I literally could only do maybe 2 or 3 things a day because I was in so much pain and I would have to sit down so often. And the pain at that point, I was trying to ignore it, trying to push it down, right? Because that's what we do. We're strong, we're tough, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I'm trying to do my psychic stuff and I am mentally, physically exhausted. I cannot handle anything to the point where like, do I even want to do psychic stuff? Do I even want to add? Can I even add anything else to my plate when I can barely do the things that I need to do to take care of myself and the little bit of housework I have? At this point, I'm not really noticing too much of a difference between when I was on the medication and when I was off the medication. I was not taking daily medications of anything. I just had like my maybe if I really couldn't sleep because the pain was so bad, I'd take a muscle relaxer. And I'm just kind of like pushing through, right? Like I'm ignoring the pain because we're tough, we're strong, blah, 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 blah. Right? I'm not taking care of my body. I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring all the signs my body is giving me. I'm ignoring every spiritual connection that I would maybe possibly be able to get through my body. At this point, I didn't even know, like, truly did not understand that we could get connections and information through our body because I was so disconnected from my body for so many reasons, and especially the pain. Because if we are in chronic pain, we kind of have to disassociate to at least a certain level to make it through the day if all you feel all day long is pain. And I am also not experiencing kind of what I thought I would experience spiritual wise when I got off the medication, right? Because everything that I was hearing from social media, from practitioners, whatever, was saying that like medication is a solid block. So I was expecting that when I came off of my medication, there was going to be some at least slightly dramatic increase in my ability, some slightly, at least a little bit dramatic. Come on, like I'm dramatic, spirit could get on board a little bit, right? But I didn't see that. I didn't see any indication that getting off of the medicine actually changed my spiritual abilities. The only thing that was changing my spiritual abilities was the dedication and the effort that I was putting in. And I was seeing gradual, continuous growth that was very linked to that. But I was not seeing this like opening up of the spiritual abilities like I expected to. And so at this point, I'm dying. I'm like, I need help, I need something, I can't make it through the day. And so I go back to my primary care doctor and I say, please help me. And she says, no, you're stupid. And so I find a specialist all on my own. And I finally get a fibromyalgia diagnosis. And that was the first diagnosis that I felt like actually really fit, that actually helped even a little bit. Proper medication really, really showed me like, oh my gosh, this is the goal. This is what we're aiming for, right? And so I was on fibromyalgia medication for a little bit. I was feeling better. But I was also noticing that I was still having quite a lot of pain, especially because I stuck with the one doctor on the fibromyalgia medication for a few years. I think it was like maybe 2 years. And I was like, listen, can you help me out with this? Like people have suggested maybe I have this or maybe I have that. Can you help me out? Can you test me? And she's like, no, I can't. And I said, can you refer me to somebody? And we did 3 separate referrals. And she's like, well, I can't help you anymore. And again, I found my own specialist. And it was actually through that specialist that I got this medication. And that was the first moment when I finally had my first true dose of the medication that he prescribed to me. It's very fast acting. He's like, you should feel it within 20 minutes. I have never in my life thought that that immediate switch would have been possible. Now, that medication is a controlled substance, so I understand why people didn't just like throw it at me before. But let me explain to you, I remember the day because the clarity that I got when I didn't have the constant raging pain is something that I truly did not expect. Now, remember at this point in my journey, I still didn't have that like grand opening up moment of spirituality that I was expecting when I got off my medication, right? I didn't have any of that. I had gradual, steady progression from the work that I was doing until this day, until the time that I truly did not have pain just for a little while. That is when I finally heard spirit clearly. That is when I felt that immediate opening up, the world is my oyster feeling. When I wasn't fighting my body anymore, when I wasn't pushing down the pain, when I wasn't ignoring the pain, when it wasn't a constant roar that took over my entire being. When I got my medication, when I got it situated, when I finally got my pain manageable, that is when my psychic abilities took off. That is when I had that roaring opening up of the world of spirituality. Now, something that is really important to mention at this point in my story, before I got this pain managed medication, before I found the doctors, before all of that, I was doing really intense therapy. I was doing somatic therapy. I was working through my CPTSD. I was working through my childhood trauma. I was doing all the things, okay? And I advocate heavily for your shadow work is a direct correlation to your psychic abilities in that if you have a lot of stored trauma in your body, if you have a lot of shadow work you need to do, if you're ignoring things, if you're pushing them down, it's going to be a block, right? We're going to have things taking up space that doesn't allow spirit to come in. It's going to stop our energy flow. We've talked about it, right? So I was actively for my own like mental health, not for spiritual reasons, actively working on like help, right? I was actively trying to give myself the fighting chance that I deserved. And it was really, really hard. And it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And I know that I'm not done because healing is harder than the trauma in a lot of ways. And so I was really, really doing it. And again, I still wasn't seeing progression in my spiritual abilities. I wasn't making any connections. I wasn't doing any of the things because my goal was not doing the shadow work, the therapy for spiritual stuff. And also, I still had really, really, really bad pain all of the time. So even if my spiritual abilities were opening up as I removed trauma, as I removed old energy, as I, released and did all of these things, the pain is so intense that I am not able to notice it at all. And looking back at it all and kind of the progression or not progression of the way that things would happen, I could probably describe that time that I was actively doing the therapy as a holding pattern because I was kind of working out that muscle, as I say, and I was making these neural connections and I was doing all of the things, but the progression wasn't really there. So we were weight training. We were doing that holding pattern until it was time to move again. I was my own block in this. I think that it happened in the way it happened for a reason because I needed to be a little bit lighter to be able to advocate for myself in the way that I needed to do to get to this point, right? So everything happened the way that it happened to get me to where I am. Of course, everything's beautiful, la da 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 da, right? But at the time, nothing was beautiful. At the time, everything sucked. I was not seeing the progression that I wanted in my mental health, in my spirituality, in anything. And I got really, really overwhelmed. And I said, I actually want to take a break for a little while. And I'm really happy that I did because, like I said, after I took that break, I was able to advocate for myself in ways that I had never been able to do before to get the help that I needed, to get the medication that did allow me that huge breakthrough with spirit. And of course, everybody's journey is going to look completely different. No two journeys are ever going to be the same. But I do take my medication religiously because I don't want to go back to where I was before. I'm so afraid of going back to where I was before because it was so difficult to do anything. I would choose my medication over my spirituality if it came to it, which it hasn't. I don't ever expect it to. But if it came to it, I would choose my medication because I have to have a human life first. I have to have a human life. I came here to have a human life. I have to choose it. Otherwise, we're probably just coming back again. And let's be honest, we need a break. Okay. So I take my medication very religiously. But it is a very fine line that I walk because, as you guys have noticed, the more medication that I take, the more my mouth don't do the mouth things, the more my brain don't do the brain things. And actually, at the point when I was moving and I was doing a lot of like physical things, I was taking the max dose of my medication, and it got really scary because it actually affected my my brain so much that I have lost entire days of memory. I don't remember entire days of moving. And so it is a really fine line that I walk with the medication. And I use a lot of other tools and tricks and tips, which I'm going to share with you some of them in a minute, to help me manage, to help me find the best fit that is good for me, that allows me to use my mouth, that allows me to use my brains, that allows me to be a badass boss bitch and do all the things that I'm doing while still enjoy my life, while still not be in constant pain, while still do the human damn thing, right? So my medication is a tool. It is one of many tools that I have in my toolbox to get me to the vibration that I want to be on. I don't want to be on the vibration where I forget entire days, right? So I use it in conjunction with other things. It's not my end all be all. I hope it never becomes my end all be all. But like I said, if it came down between one or the other, I would pick my human life because it's so important. But thankfully, I don't think I ever have to pick, and I have so many other tools. So let me talk about some of them. Now, let's talk about plant medicine versus medicine of the plant. This is how Spirit explained the difference to me when I was asking. Specifically, I had asked Gaia, and she kind of started, and then some other like just information spirits kind of chipped in as well. This was a few years ago. Gaia's been busy. I have not verified the information in New Earth, but I'm going to tell you anyway, okay? I think that even if things have changed, I think that the like base foundation of it is going to be very, very similar. So plant medicine, I personally define as medicine that can take you on a spiritual journey that comes from the earth in some way, right? Like I'm not talking just like, let's go do cocaine. No, medicine that comes from the earth that is used for the purpose of a spiritual journey. This can be a lot of things. This can be ayahuasca. This can be peyote. This can be hape, which is one of my favorites. I will show you in a second. It can also be marijuana. It can be magic mushrooms. And I say that kind of funny because there's a lot of theories that mushrooms are not from Earth, that they came here to help us. And I'm a really, really big fan of mushrooms, and I find them fascinating. And I have a whole bunch of theories about them. But I do include mushrooms, even though they may have come from outer space. I do include them as plant medicine because it does grow from the earth, okay? Medicine of the plant, sounds very similar, is, again, plants that grow from the earth, but are used to treat typically more of our human. Now, some of these can crisscross, right? Like THC, CBD, we could do either way. I have used THC as a very like releasing journey with the intention that I am going to let my body relax so much so that anything that needs to be released can be released. And I will actively sit in the consciousness with the consciousness of that plant medicine and ask it to help me release, ask it to take me to where I need to go to see what I need to work on, things like that. At the same time, I can use CBD and THC to manage my pain, and I absolutely do, and it's phenomenal. And CBD, I think, is way underrated. And so you do have some crossover, right? Let me show you guys one of my favorite plant medicines that I found growing outside. I was so excited. It was one of my favorites. I had to pull it because it was directly in a path and it would not have survived. And so I pulled off the bigger leaves and I put my little ones in my hydroponic system to try to get it to keep growing. This is mullein. And again, it was just growing in the middle of the path. I was ecstatic. Everybody thought I was absolutely batshit insane. But I dried it. They're a little extra crispy because I forgot they were in the oven and went to make a pizza. It's fine. Mullein is actually one of, if not the only one, I don't really know. But mullein is one of the only things that you can actually smoke and it improves your lung health. They used to use it to kind of clear your lungs out and kind of help you breathe better. They used to literally smoke it. This one's extra crispy. I won't smoke it, but it's also included in a lot of like incense, loose incense burning blends, like the ones that come in the bag that you kind of just light on fire. Mullein burns really, really well. And again, it's like kind of a healthier one. It sounds so weird. But mullein actually holds the flame, and a lot of the other herbs that get mixed in for whatever spiritual purpose don't actually hold a flame very well. So mullein is very often mixed in to help it hold the flame, to help it stay burning. And it does have really beneficial properties to it as well. Now, if you're like, Rebecca, that's so cool. How do you know all this? So the centerofexcellence.com, spelled the British way, it has some really, really cool online courses. So I used to have a kind of herbalist business. It was called Nowadays Naturals. I used to say that I was trying to combine modern medicine and kind of our natural medicine to find a way that you could use both, to incorporate both. Because again, at this point, I'm having no help. I'm trying to treat my pain myself. So I'm really, really looking into medicine of the plant. I'm really researching. I'm really trying to figure out where I stand, what I need, all of these things. And I understand the benefits of pills. I understand the benefits of medications. I understand that they've been created and are used for very important reasons. But I do think that we sleep on a lot of plant medicines, medicine of the plant, natural remedies, whatever you want to call it. I think we sleep on a lot of those too. So Center of Excellence, spelled the British way, I can make a link. I went through the Master Herbalist course and I learned so much. I learned about roots versus stems versus flowers, how you want to make different concoctions, whatever you want to call them, with different things, and how they're used very differently, how they hold properties very differently. The courses on the Center of Excellence are kind of expensive sometimes, but also they have really good sales. They have really good discounts, and they typically have 1 or 2 free courses offered every month. So I will link them. They are a phenomenal resource. And I did really enjoy the Master Herbalist course. I got a lot of great information from it. It came with like basically a whole textbook that I have saved on my computer. I definitely think that it is a really good resource. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I do think it's a really good resource. I also have a friend who I now get all of my like natural remedies from. I have some fires that are on the way from her. She is Roots of Recovery. I will link her below as well. Now let's talk about one of my favorite plant medicines. And this is something that I think it's super underrated. This is called Hape or Repe, spelled Hape or Rape, and the R has, what's it called? That little apostrophe above it. I'm so sorry. It has that little apostrophe above it. I will typically type it with the H spelling to avoid confusion, but it does go by both names. Now, I love this stuff so much. Let me tell you about it. Now, there are 2 main places I like to source my hape from. The first one is Chakra Openings, and the second one is 4 Visions Market. There's 4visions.com. I know you guys probably can't see it. I will link everything. And the logo is this one on the top right here. And that's what it looks like. So these are each a different blend. I love it. Look at all these blends I have. And I can attest every single blend is a different journey. Every single blend changes your vibration and reaches a different connection. And so if you are wanting to experience it, I will link a lot of information down below this post, but please do your own research as well. Pay really close attention to which one you pick, because each one does take you on a different journey. For a long time, I was only using this Gaia one from Chakra Openings, and this was my first and favorite one. I loved Gaia. I loved every connection to her. I did not need to use this every single time I talk to her, though. In fact, I don't use this very often. I personally will use it. This is my personal applicator. I'm not going to try to say the name because my mouth is already not doing mouth things, but I will. This is what it's called. So this is my personal one that I use at home. And I have this ceremonial one. Sometimes I do ceremonies with them. I am really excited because one of the things I'm hoping to get rolling soon is a retreat where maybe we can have a ceremony, because it really is one of the most magical things that I've ever experienced. These are my ceremonial ones. This one is a personal one. This one is for me to applicate on somebody else. And I also have the double one, so you can do both nostrils at the same time, because it kind of like does really suck sometimes. Now you're probably like, the fuck do you mean nostrils? What are we doing with our nostrils? Yes, it's what you're thinking. So this is a both nostrils applicator. It is called this one. This is a 1 nostril applicator, also called the same thing. I would put the medicine in both ends right here, and I will show you what it looks like in a second. I put a little bit of medicine in both ends. We do our whole ceremony. It is very intentional. Everything about every step of this process is loaded with the most intention. Okay. So I'm leaving out a whole ceremonial process in this. Okay. But I load both plant medicines, in each one. We do our thing. Did you guys see the dust come out? I haven't even used this one yet. This one's brand new. I ordered it after the last Sacred Spaces because we did a ceremony and the single nostril really sucks. Now, Four Visions does sell applicators. I did not order any of my applicators from Four Vision. This one actually I got from my Cambo lady, and she, I believe, got it in bulk from an indigenous place. I don't exactly know. All of my other stuff was gone. This was the first one I got. I was like, I really need one. I have something planned. And she's like, no problem. I have this one for you. These were the two that I had ordered from Etsy. I ordered my other one from Etsy as well. These are handmade. This is all that this shop did. I don't know if they're still operational. And then the double applicator can be a little harder to find. And I did order this one from Etsy as well. If I still have the links to them, if they are still operational, I will link those below as well. Okay, let me show you this. I'm actually going to use this one. It's a little less messy. So it's a powder, and it is all of the combinations of whatever they put in for the special blend powdered up. Okay. Now I have had this one for years because even though it's my favorite, it's still half full. You only need a tiny, tiny amount. You really don't need any bigger than a pea size per nostril. And that's like a pretty good size dose right there. Please don't feel like you have to go hard. Like I said, I didn't actually use these for the majority of the times that I connected with Gaia. I think I said that. I'm sorry if I didn't. But I don't use this when I need to just generally connect. And you absolutely don't need to go balls deep into it to connect either. Instead, I use this, like I said, for ceremonies. And I also use it when I have really big blocks. When I have blocks that I cannot figure out, that my community has helped me try to work on, and they've had great suggestions, but none of them have got that big one thing removed, right? When I am hitting a wall and I don't know what else to do, I then will turn to my Hape. And there has been, before I found Hape, there has been really, really emotional times where I would be sitting in the bathtub crying because I cannot get through this block and I can't find spirit anywhere. And I'm feeling, like we do, like I've did something wrong, or I've done this, or I've done that. Then I just can't figure it out. And in times like that, I am so entirely grateful for a resource like this, because even though I might not get the answer I want, the information I want, they always give me kind of what I need to keep progressing. Even if the progressing is slow, even if it's gradual, I get so much valuable information or releasing or whatever it might be from the many, many, many blends that are available. Ooh, this one's super full. Can you guys see it? So typically what it looks like, I will show you guys, but I'm not going to do it. I will dump a little bit into my hand. It's really hard. It's really messy, but it's fine. Everything's fine. And then I will use the cleaned applicator. I clean it with alcohol all of the time. Please be very, very safe. And I will just work it. I don't know if you guys can see. I will work it into like a little ball. And this is going to take a while to work. So hold on a second. Can you guys see that? Okay, so I've worked it into the best little ball that I can. There were some clumps in there. I gently broke the clumps up, and then I kind of just like scraped it all together. At that point, I would load the plant medicine into the long end, like this, like that. And then for self-application, this would go into my nose, and I would go, and it would go up in my nose. And I always find it tingles in the back of my head, right there. And it's really funny because each nostril, I will feel one side tingle, and then I will feel the other side tingle. I'm only going to take you this far in the process. Like I said, I skipped over all of the intention ceremony part up until this part. And even application still is loaded with intention and ceremony. I'm skipping over that whole process. It's so beautiful. And I really hope that I can share that with you guys in a bigger way, in maybe a retreat type of way or something like that really soon. And I'm going to say it again because it's so important. This is not an everyday thing. This is a tool that I have in my toolbox to help me get my vibration to where I want to be. Sometimes the vibration I want to be is way away from Earth, and I want to use it for ceremony, for exploration, for expansion, for removing blocks, for community, for connection, for whatever it is, right? It is a tool that is in my toolbox. It is not something that I use every day. It is not something that I need to have connections. And if you have a tool, be it Hape, be it a plant medicine, be it tarot cards, be it pendulums, be it any divination method, whatever, if you have a tool that you are so reliant on that you maybe can't do anything without it, it might be time to take a break from that tool. However, there's a caveat to that. It is really weird right now. And something that I've been noticing with all of the shifting that's going on is maybe we're shut down in one place, but not another. So a lot of people at this moment are using tools to connect, and they can't really connect without them. And I think that is maybe something a little bit different. But if you are consistently not being able to do anything without a tool, without a purpose, without an extra added something, I would encourage you to just explore your own abilities, explore on your own who you are and what you can do without anything, because it is phenomenal the power that we hold in ourselves. But again, right now is really, really hard. So don't be too hard on yourself. Do what you got to do to get to a point where you can maybe wean off if you need to. Now, I had reached out to a couple people in my community, in my like spiritual inner circle kind of humans, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm talking about today. Do you have anything that you think is really important? And I have mentioned a lot of things that they were like, yeah, this is important, but there's one thing in particular that I think you just need to hear their experience. And I'm not going to tell you who it was because you'll see. For clarification, this is somebody who is well into their spiritual journey, who understands plant medicine as a tool, connection as a tool. I've worked with her for many years now. Like, she knows what she's doing. She's not new to this, okay? And she has a warning for us involving plant medicine as a whole. Specifically, she was doing mushrooms. Now, interestingly enough, there has been a ton of research on mushrooms and using it to rewire your brain specifically for PTSD and things like that. So the neuroscience is there with mushrooms. The research and how it doesn't fit into plants or animals is there with mushrooms. Mushrooms are in general what? Right? And there are a few different ways that you can use mushrooms. One of the ways that is generally advocated, I'm going to say all of this in third person, just you guys get it. One of the ways that is generally advocated is microdosing. And that is what a lot of the studies have been doing, is microdosing patients and then trying to rewire their brain so that their brain understands trauma in a different way now, and it's not triggering and it's not all the things, right? And there's also the other side of it where you can take an actual dose of the mushroom and have really, really expansive trips, really, really expansive. Like, I know people who are atheists who went and did a full dose of mushrooms and were like, oh my, there's definitely a higher power up there. I've met them. They were there, right? And so we hear mushrooms a lot of times being as like, you'll meet God on the mushroom, right? There is a wide array of things that mushroom can do. And in some experiences, it can be really, really hard because it can bring up things that, I mean, intention is really important. And if you're going into a ceremony with the intention of releasing, it's going to bring up things that need to be released. So it can be very, very difficult, but it can be very mind-boggling, expansive as well. However, the warning comes in terms of new earth energy. And when we were talking about it this morning, I was like, but you've done them before, right? Like, this isn't your first time. And she was like, no, this is not my first time. But this was her first time doing it in this really big new earth energy. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the video, how I talked about we've been going through these releasing cycles, through these like shedding cycles, things are coming up that were being hidden, all of that, that is going to be intensified by any plant medicine that you use. That is going to be intensified, in her case specifically with her dose of mushrooms. And so she felt it was very important, and clearly I agreed, to kind of just give a disclaimer that we are so new into this new earth energy, into this shifting, into this higher collective consciousness, all of these things. We are so new and still shifting and changing more into this energy that everything is changing. And we need to remember that includes plant medicine. The way that she described the difference between having done it before and having done it now, she said that she could fully see the consciousness of the plant medicine. She can conceptualize it. She met it. And this is something that I have experienced before. When I did Kambo, I met the consciousness of Kambo. When I did ayahuasca, I met the consciousness of ayahuasca, and they're both fascinating and individualized. And I personally believe that they can jump from the person that did it to a new person, to somebody that they know, that they've been talking about. That energy, that spirit can jump and heal people around them. And oftentimes I've heard people describe ayahuasca as like infecting the people around them. You know, the people around them are starting to want to heal and not understanding and asking questions and being like, why is this coming up? But I digress. Okay, so it is very, very fascinating. But all of that is, again, probably going to be intensified in ways that we probably haven't experienced and don't fully understand right now. I wiped my eye too hard and now it looks like I've been crying. Okay, in the same breath, something that I used to say about the difference between plant medicine and medicine of the plant, I also feel like is no longer true. So I used to say that plant medicine was the one that had the consciousness that could jump from person to person, and that you could you could kind of like find in yourself. I used to describe it as having a very different type of consciousness than medicine of the plant. I think that is also changing. I think that medicine of the plant is expanding, is becoming way bigger, is having way more consciousness to it. And I think that the plants themselves are going to teach us and have been teaching us and continue to grow in the way that they pull us, in the way that we feel them, in the way that we understand them, how to use them, the extent of what they can do, the magic that they really are, the power that the earth has given us. I think that all of these medicines, all of the things from the earth are going to truly start connecting with us in really big ways. Even the geese outside, that was crazy. I had to phone a friend on that one too. They were talking to me this morning, okay? Things that have never happened are happening, and those things can be scary, and those things can be terrifying, and they can be really, really intense, but they can also be really beautiful, and they can also be super magical. That's where I'm going to stop today. We're already at the 45-minute mark. I've rambled on, and I could continue to ramble on because, like I said, I love all of this. I love plant medicine. I've studied that for years. I love medicine of the plant. I've studied that for years. I've studied psychology. I know how medication works. Like, I love all of it combining together. I could literally, it fills me up, right? Like, you guys hear me talk about things that give me energy, things that power me. And this is a passion that powers me. And I really, really love it. But I will stop because we're at the 45-minute mark. And honestly, I think I've hit on a lot of the really important things. But if you do have questions, please let me know. Like I said, the form is probably the easiest way to submit a question to me because it's all there, and that's where I refer back to when I'm making videos. I will link all of the resources that I have. I will link everything that I can that I've mentioned, but you guys let me know if I forget anything. Have an amazing week. Take deep breaths. It's going to be okay. I promise.